attack. Also, the U.S. now had 80,000 troops. Oh, all right, it's not letting me go. Had 80,000 troops in. All right. Hi, everybody on YouTube. We had to start. One quick second, TikTok folks. YouTube finally let me in. Unbelievable. My God. All right, I'm just doing a quick hello to the YouTubers. All right, excuse me, guys. All right. Remove Facebook. All righty. All right. I am in. Thank God. All right. Real quick. Don't leave. Don't leave, TikTokers. I'm just saying quick hi to the YouTubers. All right. YouTube folks, hello. We are already into the broadcast. YouTube would not let me in. So as I've been talking to the TikTokers, I don't know if they knew it or not, I kept hitting the let me in button on YouTube and it finally let me in. So let's just dive right in. You guys know the rules. Maybe if the mods want to explain how super chat and super stickers work, that might be nice. But let me just keep going. So I was talking about the NATO summit, just jumping in, saying that the U.S. troops before the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we had 80,000 troops in Europe. Now we have 100,000, just to show you. So we've not just moved NATO troops closer to the east, closer to Russia, to defend our eastern flank against a possible Russian attack, but we've also moved 20,000 new U.S. troops to Europe as well. This meeting will be clearly discussing that, whether the U.S. is going to move even more troops, I suspect. What will be absolutely on the agenda, which I've been assuming, and finally the news tonight backed me up on this. Thank you, Richard, by the way. Backed me up on this is, I'll take my comment away now, is what does the West do if Russia uses chemical, biological, or tactical nuclear weapons, right? What do they do? And not only is that one big question for NATO, right? I mean, do we get involved? How do we get involved? Is it tit for tat? If they launch a chemical weapon, do we blow up a regiment? I mean, what do we do, right? The other issue is somebody raised on TV today, which I thought was very interesting. What do we do? And this I could actually see Putin doing. What do we do if Putin decides to play it cute and he lobs like one missile into Poland, just a missile? And for example, he says, oh gosh, I don't know how that missile got there. So sorry. What do? We know Putin probably would do it to be a jerk and to test our mettle and to see, would we respond or are we so afraid, right? So that's the first problem. What do we do? Second scenario, Putin sends a missile into Poland and Putin says, I did it on purpose. Then what do you do, right? So these are things that NATO is going to have to decide at this meeting. And I suspect, as I've been saying all along, I think it's going to be very difficult for NATO to stay out of this fight militarily, because I think Putin is going to eventually do something that is so outrageous. I mean, what he's been doing is outrageous, but he's going to eventually do something that is going to be such horrific civilian casualties, even short of using chemical, biological, nuclear, that I think the citizens of the West are going to stand up and say, this is World War II. We can't accept this any longer. This is a humanitarian disaster. And I think NATO has got to talk amongst themselves about just that. What will they do in that kind of a scenario? Can Putin do anything within the borders of Ukraine, where as long as he doesn't attack NATO, NATO will not get involved militarily. NATO will not engage with Russian troops. That's their big decision. The other issue is helping Ukraine some more, right? There are still more sanctions that can be done. The German chancellor said today he is not a fan of the energy sanctions because it would cost Germany hundreds of thousands of jobs. And in all fairness to him, he's not lying. Germany, I believe the figure gets 40% of its energy from Russia. I mean, that's a huge amount of their energy. Just cutting that off I'm sympathetic. That would be very difficult for a country to cut off 40% of its energy. The U.S. gets a much smaller amount of energy from Russia, very small. So, that's one issue. Are there more and better weapon systems we can give them? Are we at the point now where maybe will NATO discuss those MiGs again? Remember those fighter jets that were in Poland that Poland wanted to give, and then the U.S. got scared and the whole deal fell apart about a week ago? And Ukraine has been begging for those planes. Are we at the point now where NATO is maybe going to discuss that? I think they might. There's also, I had mentioned the other day, actually I think in my videos on TikTok yesterday, there's a new system that the Ukrainians found, a Russian system that is used for interfering with radar and stuff. It interferes with, for example, the AWACS radar. The big, I want to say 747s with the couple decades old now, I think. The thing sticking out on top that looks like a flying saucer, and it flies in the sky, and it's their sort of mobile radar control thing. It can interfere with that. It can interfere with low orbiting satellites. It can interfere with UAVs, the unmanned drones that fly around, that we, especially in Afghanistan and Iraq, that we use quite a bit, that the Ukrainians are using. Well, the Ukrainians found the Russian secret box, and it's pretty big. It's like the size of one of those small moving boxes you order when you're moving to a different apartment. And what the defense experts I was reading were saying that it was such an intelligence find for the Ukrainians to find this, that they think the CIA and the Defense Department would be just dying to get their hands on this, and that it could mean that the U.S. could come around in terms of helping the Ukrainians, in terms of helping them with maybe the MiGs they want, the fighter jets, or surface-to-air missiles. So very interesting on that front. The other issue for NATO to talk about is this came up back on the 20th, so like 3 or 4 days ago. I haven't seen it come up since, but it's on the agenda. Poland raised the prospect. Remember when Poland and the other two leaders, Czech Republic and I want to say Slovenia, I think Slovenia, maybe Slovakia, went to Kyiv to visit with Zelensky this past weekend. Well, one of the things the Poles offered was, or proposed, was not as a part of NATO, but they said, what if we do a peacekeeping mission that is armed, that can defend itself, but not with the intent to engage the Russians, but a peacekeeping mission in the part of Ukraine that isn't occupied by Russia. Now, my suspicion is that means Western Ukraine. That means at the start of the show, I was talking, and probably the YouTubers missed it, about whether Belarus was going to invade from the northwest. And if they did, would they go to Kyiv, the capital, or would they go straight down to Lviv, the western city on the border of Poland, in order to cut off the weapons transfers coming in from Poland, presumably by truck, right? So the what I'm thinking is, and Poland hasn't explained any more of this, but it's on the agenda for tomorrow for NATO, is putting peacekeepers in the area where there isn't fighting. And basically, in essence, you're leaving it up to the Russians. You're saying, there's no fighting in this area. We're putting in troops. No one's coming into this area. Like, that's it. You've already destroyed enough of this country. You're already killing civilians. You are not going to kill civilians from here to here to here to here. You put our troops there, and it's a gamble because Putin would have to attack us. But if he attacks us, then we're at war. But then you've got to play an analysis of whether you think Putin is so stupid and the Russian military is so crazed that they would let Putin do it, would be to attack NATO. But that's interesting. So what is on my left, by the way, because I knew you guys were going to ask this, that is the new phone holder I've got, so I can hold my TikTok, my camera, my phone there. And this way I can look at the TikTok comments, and I can also look at the YouTube comments. So I'm actually looking both at the same time. So there you go. Haha. So that's what that is. So that's what's up for NATO. I've only got one more big story I wanted to do. Then we can just jump right into questions. And then I also have some backup. Like if you want to talk Israel, I've got some more on that. If you want to talk war crimes, I've got more on that. But I wanted to tell you one story. The TikTokers might have seen it last night. If you didn't, check it out. I put a video on TikTok from the BBC. It's about 2-minute segment or something of a town called Voznesensk in Ukraine that is, of course, a town of farmers, and they took on the Russians and won. And this story is incredible. Like I said, the BBC has video from the town. They got CCTV footage or whatever you call it, but security footage in the town. They went and interviewed people. Some of the townsfolk, some of the farmers filmed themselves shooting at the Russians. I mean, imagine these guys were taking selfies of themselves shooting at the Russians. What the farmers did, a Russian tank column is coming into the town. There's a strategic bridge in the town that the Russians need, I guess, for trying to gain control of the South. Well, the townspeople, and again, some people are thinking maybe the British helped them with this, but somebody very smart, it could have just been Ukrainian military, the townspeople take video of themselves setting up roadblocks with tires and all these things, and basically forced the Russian tank, it was tanks and other vehicles, but the tanks to to take a detour. I mean, it's like something out of a cartoon. Take a detour, and it's the very detour they wanted them to take. So the Russian tanks, being morons, see this roadblock and go, guess we better go the other way. They go the other way. They get to the bridge, and right when they're at the bridge, the Ukrainians blow up the bridge and then start attacking the tanks with, these guys were saying, hunting rifles, bricks, like bricks that you build your house with, and British anti-tank weapons, which is absolutely blows my mind. The guys in the town were being interviewed saying the Russians didn't know where to look. The British anti-tank weapons especially destroyed the vehicles. It blew up almost every single one of the vehicles, and the Russians fled. I mean, this little town of farmers. Now, clearly, people had said to me, and you're probably right, there's clearly concern about, what happens when the Russians find out the name of this town, because it was all over the BBC. And it's, a perfect place for Russian retribution. As we know, the Russians would, wipe out everybody. But nonetheless, if you do what you got to do, and it's people are fighting back. You guys were asking last night in the whichever TikTok or YouTube, but folks were asking last night about whether the civilians were finally fighting back. This is a situation of them fighting back and really kicking butt. So that is it for the summary. That's about right, half hour. Although frankly, we started about 5-10 minutes late because initially I was trying to get the YouTubers, and then we had Sasha the Wonder Dog. You guys missed that too. Sasha discovered some of my neighbors were in the hall and was very excited. So we had about 5 minutes of Sasha barking. So we're fine now. So let me get to first question from Rebecca. And typically, I always say typically we'll do questions until about 8 o'clock, another half hour. Usually you guys make me go longer anyway, and I do. But I'll try to keep it maybe to 8:15 at the latest. In other words, 45 minutes of questions. And then we just hang and chat just for fun. So Rebecca Milan asks, with so many Russians against the war, well, are they against the war, right? We don't know. Why don't they work with Ukraine to overthrow Putin? There is more of them than space to arrest them all. Yeah, the issue is Russia has always been a not free country, and now it is once again a dictatorship. It's back to the old days of the Soviet Union. And the problem you get, it's not quite the prisoner's dilemma. I'm trying to think like what we call it in political science, but basically, well, it is the prisoner's dilemma, I guess, in a way. Like, if we all jump up together and oppose an oppressive government, we'll win. But if I step up to oppose a dictatorship by myself, they're going to kill me. And that's the way, Nazis too, the same kind of thing, like, oh, why didn't everybody just stand up for the Nazis and say no? In part because you're hoping you're the person who lives. And if everybody doesn't stand up at once, you're all going to be, and even then you may all be killed. They've got machine guns. So, Russia's a dictatorship. People are scared. And I think, and probably some of the folks in the comments probably know Russian history even better than I do, but Russia doesn't exactly have a history of freedom to start with and of democracy. So it's just not even clear what the Russian people are thinking. They're not going to want war and they're not going to want death, but I'm not sure they want democracy either, And the question becomes, at what point do they see Putin as being something they want to get rid of? Putin, I think, has been pretty popular in Russia. There have been uprisings. There was a big uprising in 2011, a pro-democracy uprising when, he always steals elections, but I think he stole particularly bad that time. He's killed opposition leaders, but this war certainly has the potential now to make him very unpopular because of so many war dead. As I said at the beginning, NATO now estimates 15,000 Russian war dead in just a month, which is more than Russia had in Afghanistan in 10 years. And the Afghanistan deaths caused a huge problem for Russia back home. This is going to be significant when people start realizing the number of young boys they've lost. And if you see the photos online, I follow different Twitter accounts of military folks, and they've been sharing the photos from Russia of the announced war dead. These guys are kids. They're really kids. They look like 17-year-olds. It's just, they're doing horrible things. I'm not trying to create sympathy for them, but I'm saying I can only imagine the parents back home and people back home seeing somebody who literally looks like a 17-year-old high school kid. It's bad. Water. So there. Now, sorry, we do have more questions. Hang on, guys. Doc, good to see Doc Remington again. Thank you. I do see that on TikTok. Don't worry, TikTok folks. I see you're throwing the hats on. Remember when I asked last week if there was any truth in Shoigu, the Minister of Defense? Yes, I remember that name now. Scheming against Putin. Now he's apparently been missing for 2 weeks. Well, I saw something about that today. He and a couple of other people. Okay, missing. I'll be more. The lawyer in me will be more descriptive or more precise. What I read online said that the Minister of Defense of Russia had not been heard from in 2 weeks. Of course, in a dictatorship, not being heard from in 2 weeks when you're the Minister of Defense and you're at a major war that you're losing could be conceived as missing and that you're in trouble. Yeah. There was the story today. I didn't even report on it because I don't think it's that big a deal. Russia's climate negotiator, who did make a comment against the war like a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago, has left Russia and pretty much said he's not coming back. My guess is Putin made it clear to him what was going to happen to him if he did come back after criticizing the war. So, there's some dissent, but the analyses I was seeing today were saying that until somebody that is part of Putin's, I want to say cabinet, but they call it like national security something. It's a different name, but basically his top circle, until one of his top circle stands up and criticizes him and says, I quit, I'm not doing this anymore, they still feel like Putin's got a pretty strong control of things. But it would still be great news if there were such a turnover in the Department of Defense, in the Ministry of Defense in Russia, that they got rid of the Minister of Defense. Because that's just more turmoil, and more turmoil means they're going to be even less effective at what they're doing. And we already know they've been pretty ineffective, or at least not very effective at all. But collective action problem, that's what it's called. Lindsay Wallenberg was saying when I was trying to give the example of why it is that the whole country just doesn't stand up and say stop. And it's the problem of if everybody acts, we're fine and we win. But if just a couple of us act, we're going to get shot. And therefore, everyone's afraid that everyone else won't step up. So yeah, the collective action problem, that's probably what it's called. I didn't know the name, but I certainly know. I think of prisoner's dilemma, which is similar in some ways. Not entirely similar, but it's the idea of if both of you act, you're in good stead. Thank you, Debbie Thompson. Let me do a quick look to the questions on TikTok, since I caught up with the guys here. Yes, I mentioned that Renault, what Renault has done, and again, this might have been depending on when you YouTubers got here, I started by mentioning that the French auto company Renault has once again ceased operations temporarily in Russia. You may recall they did it 3 weeks ago. They ceased operations. Then yesterday they announced they were starting operations, and the entire world got really ticked off at the French for that. And suddenly Renault announced today they're I don't want to say ceasing. They're suspending operations, and they're reassessing, I think was the word. They're reassessing their Russia operations. So that's actually very good news. I will say, not just on the face of it, but the fact that when the world got so upset, okay, even one step back, the fact that the world did get so upset that Renault was moving back in, the fact that people spoke up in such large numbers, A. B, the fact that it was such large numbers that a big major international company got freaked out and changed their mind is great news. It's also great news going into the NATO summit because, we're always afraid we need more to be done to take on Russia economically and militarily, but we also need the entire alliance, I would say the worldwide coalition, not just NATO, to not get cold feet, to not say, well, this has been going on too long, we're losing too much money, this kind of thing, right? So what happened with Renault was also a message to other governments saying, you don't want to be Renault. You don't want to be the folks who caved and got a lot of problems. Now, this is interesting. Yes, I saw a photo today that claimed to be of this. This is on YouTube. Kelly Halstead says, Russia allegedly is using white phosphorus bombs near Kyiv, the capital of Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. If these chemical bombs are banned, why isn't NATO taking a stronger stand? To quote Alexander Hamilton, one of our founding fathers of the U.S., if you don't know what you stand for, Burr, what will you fall for? I never did see him. I still haven't seen Hamilton yet, but that's a good quote from it. A couple things. I saw the report today. I didn't see it confirmed, so to speak, which is also why I didn't even put it on TikTok yet. Believe it or not, I am pro-Ukraine. That is clear from my TikTok channel. It's clear from this discussion. I think most of us outside of Russia and 4 other countries or 5 other countries are on the side of Ukraine in this battle. But I still try to be careful of what information I put up. And I don't put stuff up that literally is just a rumor that who knows. I didn't think it was enough yet. It was a photo somebody showed where they said it appeared to be white phosphorus, and it was the claim from whether it was the government of the region or something, but I just didn't see if it's confirmed yet. If it is confirmed, then won't that be a question for NATO tomorrow? Now, here's part of the problem. This reminds me, I mentioned about we've been doing this for almost a month now, or 3 weeks that I've been doing these updates with you guys. I was at an event in DC, a book party, about right before the war started, so a month ago. And I met the former defense minister of a European country. And I asked him, and I said, I'm confused. Why is everybody so afraid about the Baltic states getting invaded, for example, that Putin is going to go after Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, because we've got the NATO Charter, and we've got Article 5 of the NATO Charter says if any NATO country is attacked, then all the other countries will come to their defense, and you've got war. And he said to me, well, NATO Charter, that Article 5 isn't automatic. And I kind of thought this is where he was going to go with this. He said, it's not like if Lithuania is attacked and Lithuania is a member of NATO, automatically NATO is at war with Russia. Lithuania has to call for Article 5 to be invoked or invoke it. NATO has to get together. They've got to discuss it. They've got to discuss whether they agree that this was really an attack, whether they agree that Article 5 should be invoked. So it's actually a political decision of NATO whether they go to war. It's not an automatic decision. And the reason I bring this up was Kelly's asking about phosphorus, white phosphorus, and it being a chemical weapon. Well, the question then becomes, does NATO consider white phosphorus a chemical weapon in the same way they said that using chemical weapons like Russia did in Syria would be, a red line, to use the Obama term that was poorly used because Russia crossed the red line and we didn't do anything about it, but that do phosphorus bombs count as the chemical weapons that the White House warned you better not do? Political. See, this is where politics plays into a lot of things. And it's not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying that will be one of the discussions tomorrow is what does the intelligence say in terms of did it happen? And if we determine that it did happen, what do we do? Do you treat it as a literal chemical weapons attack and then we've got to bomb something? So hang on. I still have a little bit of a clogged nose from my little nose surgery last week. It's getting better. Not great though. Putin is out. Yep. Putin is not allowing dead Russian soldiers' bodies to be sent back to Russia. Those are the reports that, for example, well, there's a couple things going on. First of all, one of the things that I found fascinating, and I was reading yesterday, some of you guys mentioned it either in our chat or in the comments on one of these, but I was reading about it too in the last couple of days. They are, thank you, they are not seeing medical trucks, medical vehicles on the front lines. The Ukrainians are not seeing Russian vehicles, marked with a red cross or whatever it is that marks it as being doctors, medics, nurses, whatever you want to call them. And it doesn't look like Russia brought them. And the ones that do, they've intercepted some communications of the Russian troops talking. The ones that were there, one Russian soldier was talking about on his unencrypted device, because the Russians are using devices that aren't encrypted, so they're easy to break into and listen to and spy on. And he's talking about how he went to one of the doctors they had for their unit and said, half the men have frostbite. Half the men in his unit had frostbite on their feet. And the doctor said, I don't really have anything for that. I've only got bandages, and I've got bandages for 300 people, and that's all I've got in my entire kit. That's all the doctor had. Bandages. I mean, that's it. Like if you were injured, forget it. He could literally help you with a cut on your hand. But the frostbite, everything else. So the question, I think, is, we've already had stories of the Russians not picking up their dead. In some places they did. I mentioned this town, Voznesensk, where the townspeople, the farmers, fought back against a Russian tank column and won in the last couple of days. In that town, the Russians did take their dead with them. So that was interesting. And I mean, good, I think, because, come on. I mean, I don't care what side you're on. You should respect your own men that you're fighting with. That's just It's just outrageous. But in other parts of the country, the Ukrainians have been saying, like in the South in general, they've been literally collecting the war dead. They've been collecting the war dead and putting them on ice. And in the hopes that they will eventually, I think they themselves might do DNA. They're hoping after the war ends, they've got them in they've got them in refrigerated trucks. I mean, the Ukrainians are literally the very people who are trying to kill them or are killing them. They've put their bodies on ice because they don't want the bodies to rot, because they want to get these back to their families. I mean, it would be just as easy for them just to do mass graves, which they're doing for their own people. The Ukrainians have even had mass graves for children. I mean, that's how bad it is for their own children, because they can't bury them during wartime. But the Russians, they're putting on ice and saving for their families. I mean, that's who the Ukrainians are. I don't know what I would do in their stead, but that's amazing. What else we got here, guys? We'll put on my glasses and look at more questions. And as always, like I said, I like the super chat questions because, of course, they're also donations. So thank you. All of this I'm spending my full time now doing this for you guys, because this is not for you guys. I mean, for the cause for the Ukrainians, because I think this is important. And I want to keep summarizing the news for everybody, getting it out there and doing the TikToks all day. So thank you. I will go through your questions anyway, but if you do a super chat question, that is the one I will jump to first, because there's lots of questions all over the place. Let me do a quick YouTube question. Yep, CNN just had a notification about abandoned bodies of Russian soldiers piling up in Ukraine. Yep, that's what we heard. Yep. MT History Buff says that the NATO meeting will likely be establishing agreed upon rules of engagement to avoid feet dragging. Rules of engagement meaning what I talked about earlier. Okay, under this scenario, what do we do? If Putin fires a missile at Poland, what do we do? If Russian troops cross into Poland, what do we do? I don't know, right? It depends what the scenario is, and they figure out a very specific plan. Thank you, by the way, the TikTok folks. They figure out a very specific plan of action so that they know what to do, so that it doesn't look like NATO's weak, but also so that we don't accidentally go to war either. You want to make sure that the people on the front lines, the Poles especially, but also the Baltic states are there as well, bordering Russia. The Poles are bordering Belarus, which very concerned Belarus and Ukraine, and the Russians have fired missiles within 15 miles of Poland, right? When they hit that training center for the foreign troops, it was 15 miles away or 25 kilometers away from Poland. So Poland itself needs, agreed upon rules of when does it defend its territory, right? So that's what that's all about. Let me jump to Tiki-Taki again. The Kursuko, I don't know much more about it. I was talking earlier, I'm pretty sure that's what it is because I'd Googled it, the Kursuka 4, I think. I don't actually, MT History Buff on YouTube. I don't know if you're familiar more about this. If you are, put in a comment and I'll mention it to the TikTok folks. But I was mentioning how the Ukrainians showed a picture, I believe it's called a Kursuka 4 or something like that. And it is an anti radar weapon, not weapon, but coordinating center. It can take out AWACS. It can take out drones. It can take out low-flying satellites. And apparently, the Ukrainians got their hands on one, that the Russians abandoned it. It's kind of a big honking thing, like the size of a small truck and maybe the size of an ice cream truck in America. And the intelligence experts I was reading online, or the military experts, were saying, oh my God, the CIA and the Defense Department are going to die to get their hands on this. And the experts I read say this could be what gets Ukraine the MiG fighter jets it wants from Poland, because it's such a big deal that NATO wants it. So that's all I know about it. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see if MT's got anything, and I hope I don't miss it because we got a few more questions to post now. I will try to see if anybody brings up more info on it. I'm not an expert on the system. I just know huge intelligence find in the last 2 days. Rebecca Milan, with the targeting of civilians and non-military buildings, what do you think will be the tipping point for NATO? Thank you. Okay. First of all, who the hell what she means is the tipping point for NATO to finally, in essence, get involved militarily, not just by providing weapons, but saying, okay, that's it. We're going to have a no-fly zone. We're going to take out Russian radar, that we are going to engage Russia militarily. I worry that there's two things I think are going on. One, I felt from the beginning like we're going to be forced to get involved. Things are going to get so bad, and Ukraine being part of Europe, and again, it's a bias. We've talked about this before. Americans certainly have a bias towards Europe versus other areas, at least obviously not all Americans, but the majority of Americans are still probably, or we're pretty close 50-50 now with sort of European blooded versus Latin America versus Africa versus Asia. But we are still a very Eurocentric country. Our political leadership is usually, European immigrant base. My family's from Greece, for example. I'm not political leadership, but I'm saying that kind of stuff. Obama, however, family from Africa, but also American family too. He had both. American meaning white family, so European family as well. So in any case, I think things are going to get so bad that Americans are going to say, we've had it. You've got to get involved, Biden. What that would it be chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons? Nuclear, sure. Chemical and biological, who knows? Like we were saying earlier, let's see if the white phosphorus is enough to even get NATO involved more. Like if they consider that a chemical attack. I think you're also looking at these have all been crimes against humanity. But for example, that drama theater in Mariupol that the Russians bombed, that had up to 1,300 people. We still don't know what happened. We know, 130, 140, maybe 200 I saw people got out. We know that some of the survivors said at least 30 people for sure died because there were 30 people in one part of the theater that totally was obliterated. It's gone. What they don't know is, are there another 1,000 people still in that theater alive, dead, dying, injured? Did a lot of them escape? Nobody knows. There's so much rubble and so much bombing going on, nobody can get in to help them. Well, if that attack killed 1,000 people and 1,000 civilians in a fallout shelter, in a bomb shelter, in one attack, and we know now it was intentional. This is the theater, remember, where it was written children in Russian on the outside, on the ground outside the theater. If we knew it immediately that 1,000 women and children were killed intentionally by Russia, bombing them, that alone, I think, could have made a huge difference. I don't know whether it means they get the MiGs, whether it means Poland's proposal for a no-fly zone in the West, in the western part of Ukraine that is still non-Russian occupied at all. But that's I think it's something. Everything's outrageous that we're hearing, but something that literally, like that maternity bombing. Had they bombed that maternity hospital, and it looks like a lot of the patients, from what we heard, were downstairs because it was already being bombed in the area, so they were already in hiding. It did kill the one woman and her child. It injured a number of others, but it was not the kind of mass killing that we were afraid would happen in a maternity hospital. Of course, the Russians had no idea that a lot of the people had left. They were trying to kill them anyway. But imagine if that maternity hospital strike had killed 100 women and their babies in a maternity ward, and there were images of the carnage. I mean, that's the kind of thing I hate to sort of try to put it in little boxes of what's enough and what isn't enough. I'm just sort of giving you my political and my media analysis of what I think pushes the population's buttons, meaning the population in the West, but also our leaders and the media. And because the media has a big influence as well. When they're outraged, we get outraged. So, but the question I'm doing too long of an answer, as I do this sometimes. The other question I have, though, is I have been worried from the beginning that our NATO leaders keep saying, oh, it's World War III if we get involved and fight with Russia, so we can't fight with Russia. And quick sip of water, and I will tell you why that worries me. It worries me because if it means World War III and the end of the world, if we engage militarily with Russia, then we should never engage militarily with Russia, right? If Russia invades Poland, yeah, actually, I looked the other day, I'm forgetting now, is the Polish population 30 million or something? I don't remember exactly, but let's say it is. Poland's 30 million people are in danger. Well, if we get involved, we're going to end life on the planet if it's a nuclear war. So isn't losing 30 million people better than losing 7 billion? I'm saying this facetiously. I'm not saying it seriously. What worries me is I think NATO has boxed itself into a little corner where we've said, oh, no, it's too dangerous to ever get involved attacking Russia, so we won't. That kind of gave Russia permission to do whatever it wants. And I think even chemical, nuclear, and biological weapons, we already said if we fight Russia, it's the end of the world. So why would we get involved even if that happened? So that's what scares me, Rebecca, as to whether there's an aspect of us not getting involved. But that also becomes the point where then the populace speaks up, where the American people and the European people speak up and say, you know what, enough of it. This is literally World War II. We're not going to sit back and watch this happen. Tony is super depressed about Mariupol. I know. We talked about it earlier. Mariupol is that key town in the south of Ukraine on the water, or by the water at least. It is super strategically important because, excuse me again, my nose is still nice and congested from my surgery. Russia, one of the goals Russia had with this invasion, and it was a limited goal, and it's a goal that people think Russia probably could have accomplished. Like, had they just done this and left, they could have gotten away with this, but was to establish a land bridge to basically turn the southern part of Ukraine into Russia. Because the Russians came in 2014 and they stole Crimea, which is the peninsula at the south of Ukraine, okay? They just literally stole it militarily, forced it, and said, it's Russia now, too bad. And the world, being the world, was like, oh gosh, what do we do? Oh well, Putin's got nukes, right? Screw Ukraine, unfortunately. So what now is happening is Russia doesn't like the fact that to get to Ukraine, it's got this land, or to get to Crimea, it's got this sort of a land bridge over the water, over the Black Sea, and it's very small. You can't bring military across, whatever. They want to steal Ukrainian land along the coast of the Black Sea, connecting it to Russia. And that's what they're trying to do right now in Mariupol. And what they're doing there especially is they've, as we've said, destroyed probably 90% of the town already. I was hearing one of the experts say today that quite literally, Russia is just trying to either kill everybody or scare everybody out of the town so that the town is gone. There's not a single person left, and it just disappears from the map. And the idea there is that then Russia will just, turn it into a parking lot or whatever it wants. It'll annex it as part of Russia and be done with it. But it's horrible. I mean, this is the same town that they had the maternity ward bombed. It's the same town where they bombed a bus with kids on it. I mean, it's horrible what they've been doing to that town. I know that should have been enough to sort of answer, was it Lori or Rebecca's question about what's enough for us to get involved? What they're doing to Mariupol should be enough. People have been comparing it to, Guernica and other such things in the past. Doc's got another question. Excuse me. Thank you, Doc. Doc is now putting who people are, although I remember Kuleba's name. Is it Dimitro, I think, for his first name? But I learned this working on Capitol Hill, by the way. You always assume people don't know what you're talking about, and it's always good to, if you use a foreign name of a foreign, I probably am not doing it with you guys because you guys know, but sometimes I'll say, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, because you don't want to assume people know stuff, because if you're doing it all day long, Anyway, so Doc writes, Kuleba, the Ukrainian foreign minister, was claiming yesterday that he observes waning resolve in the EU countries already. I'd not heard of that. I'm not sure what he's referring to. Now, there's two things going on. He could be saying, look, we already had Renault come back in, right? That it already came back into Russia and started operations. That got clamped down, but that could have easily given a warning saying, if Renault goes back in, our other European company's going to say, well, they went back, why don't we, right? The second thing is, we saw today, I was saying, the comments from the German chancellor saying that Germany just can't cut off Russian energy, or it would cost, I think I wrote down the quote even. A boycott of Russian energy would imperil hundreds of thousands of jobs, he said, the German chancellor. That could be what Ukraine's referring to right there, that they're saying, look, we need that energy cut off, and you people aren't doing it. And by the way, guess what? Waning resolve is also, you won't give us the MiGs we want and we need. And we need the SAM, the surface-to-air missiles, right? So it depends what. I don't know. Or the Ukrainians know something specific that we don't know about that are, maybe they are getting a little cold feet on some of the weapons. I guess we're going to find out tomorrow. Rebecca, I'm going to have another sip of water. 7:58. Yeah, we'll go. I'll go till 8:15. In other words, we'll go another 15 minutes with questions. Don't worry. Rebecca asks, a variety of legitimate sites sharing what to do for nuclear attacks, how to survive them. Is it because they have confirmed intel it's going to happen? I have seen nothing like that. My suspicion is, well, there's two things going on if you've seen that. One, somebody's trying to scare you. But if they're legitimate websites, then the legitimate website shouldn't be trying to scare you. I would think that people are putting information out there for the Ukrainians. That's what I would do. Americans, I'm not worried about Americans having to go hide in nuclear attacks right now. I'm not worried about it happening to Europeans either. I think Putin is bluffing. I think he's nuts, but I think he's bluffing. He's trying to scare people. It's what the Soviet Union's done since they blew up their first bomb. I think it was 1949. They would always say, oh, nuclear war. And they try to scare us into going, oh, no. And it's the typical Soviet and now Russian tactic. Having said that, because of the possibility of battlefield nukes and, frankly, chemical weapons and biological weapons, the Ukrainians absolutely need information on what to do. And, frankly, maybe it wouldn't hurt the Poles and the Baltic states and the NATO's eastern flank to have its people be a little more aware of what to do, even though that's a really scary thing and it risks freaking people out. But, I just don't even think, personally, I just don't even think it's a risk yet. I really don't. I think Putin is psyching us out. I do. He's pissing me off. I mean, I think he has psyched us out. Even the idea that, we could give them the Brits, for example. The Brits gave them that anti-tank weapon. I forget what it's called, that they used to blow up the Russian tank column in Voznesensk. That's okay. Like, the Brits can give them weapons to kill Russian troops and tanks. But if we give them planes to kill Russian troops, that's not okay. That would be an act of war or something. So we give them other weapons to kill Russian troops. I mean, come on, give me a break. There's no difference. There's just no difference. I mean, I think we're psyching ourselves out to a degree. I mean, we've got to be careful. Putin is kind of going a little bit nuts here, but I think there's an element of gamesmanship involved as well. Just my perspective. Thank you, CB. That was nice of you. Just scroll down. There are a couple more questions here. Daniel, good to see you. The Ukrainian citizens, 10,000 or so taken by Russia. Oh, there's possibly more. There was a report that 62,000 Ukrainians were taken from Mariupol alone into, whether it's Eastern Ukraine controlled by Russia or Russia itself is the report I saw. So it could be a lot more people. Are these people likely to be used as hostages for soldier exchange? Oh, yeah. Sure. I mean, there have been multiple reports. Well, there's a couple different things going on. There are multiple reports that the Russians are literally taking people hostage, and they're taking citizens hostage and just shipping them off to Russia. There was what is believed to be an FSB whistleblower. People think it's credible, but nobody knows for sure. FSB, more or less a follow-on organization to the Russian KGB, their version of the CIA. So imagine kind of the CIA of Russia, maybe. It's different though. But a whistleblower wrote a piece claiming that the Russians were getting so upset at what was going on in Kherson, for example, another town in the south, where the townspeople are just protesting every day against the Russian occupation. And the Russians keep shooting in the air and the townspeople keep turning out. The document said the Russians are planning on basically kidnapping everybody. And if it takes kidnapping half the town, they'll do it. And they've talked of, the document said literally they are talking about knocking on people, not even knocking, barging on people's doors on their homes in the middle of the night and kidnapping them up to half the town and just shipping them off to Russia. So, if they're willing to do that, and we already know they're willing to bomb civilians, they were willing to bomb a theater that literally had in big, bold letters, children written on the side of it that they could read from their planes. Would they be willing to take people hostage if they're willing to kill them? Yes. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Also, I had heard much larger numbers of Russians who may have even crossed the border just to seek refuge. If you're getting bombed, even if you're in Ukraine, in the eastern provinces or whatever, I mean, there's no bombing going on in Russia, so maybe you do cross the border because at least you're alive, even though you don't want to worry about what happens next, right? So I would be convinced they're going to be hostages. Absolutely. Brendan Laird asks, would you say this is just as much of an information war as a traditional war? Sure. Actually, yes. The role media is playing is unlike anything we've really seen before. It's fascinating. Look what we're doing. okay, with TikTok, with YouTube, and the fact that, first of all, those of us from all over the world can get together and even share this information in a sense of community. That alone makes us more involved in the war. We have more of an attachment. I think just get a number of us have been coming I've been coming every day, but a lot of you, I'm recognizing your names, have been coming every day. You've got a little more invested in the war because the technology has done this. You're learning more about the war because I am able to look at so much different news because of the internet, because of cable television, right? Because of Twitter. I follow all these war experts on Twitter where I'm getting information from. I'm following the Kyiv Independent, a newspaper in Ukraine I'm getting news from. I mean, it's insane, the kind of news we could get that in previous wars you couldn't get. And then I'm able to distill it and give it to you guys tonight. And part of the reason I can afford to do that is because you guys are helping me by giving me donations with the cute little funny hats on TikTok or your questions here. And that's frankly making it easier for me to devote my full time. I mean, think of the way this all ties together of how the information is getting out there. And then I was able to raise money with you wonderful TikTok people, but you guys, YouTube helped too. You know, I was saying at the beginning of the show, we shipped about $14,000 plus has already gone to Ukraine that Vlad has been distributing to other families in need. And they've now helped this soup kitchen of sort that's delivering food and clothes to people trapped in Kharkiv. And that's your money. And we did it, crowdsourcing it across the entire world using the internet. I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy. You know, I get on the computer and I'm using programs that are encrypted to talk to my Ukrainian friends every day or two just to check in and see how things are going. That's just crazy. So I mean, I don't mean to sound excited about it, but I mean, I've always been an internet person. That's what I've done for a living. It is amazing how this has interconnected the world, but also we have seen firsthand what's happening in Ukraine and it's pissing us off. And the Ukrainians have done a great job on the information warfare side. They are also extremely lucky. They've got a president who knows his stuff, right? I mean, this guy absolutely rose to the challenge. He's being compared to Churchill. I mean, I'm a little too young to remember Churchill, but you know, clearly Zelensky has the fortitude and the Ukrainian troops and the people have the fortitude, but you've now got the informational warfare involved to broadcast that fortitude to the world. So the world looks and goes, look at Zelensky. Look at the farmers stealing all these tanks, right? Look at like I said, women picking up bricks and throwing them at Russians. The woman at the beginning of the war, the woman who went up to the Russian soldier and started lecturing him about putting some sunflower seeds in his pocket. And she was saying, here's sunflower seeds, the national flower of Ukraine. Put it in your pocket because when the Ukrainian troops kill you, I want sunflowers to grow in the ground out of your dead body. I mean, it was like, oh my God, right? But because of information and the internet, we are able to share that around the world, and it makes people like you and me feel for that woman. It also makes us think these guys can win or not lose, at least, right? That initially we thought they were going to lose in 3 days. Now it's been a month and we're going, holy cow, right? So the information war has also not just improved their morale, but improved our morale, which what does that mean? The West is more willing to give them money, to give them weapons, and to give them support because now they're people who can win. It's not a lost cause. Okay, that was a very long, I ought to write an essay about this just because I'm fascinated. As somebody said the other day, because one of the links I've got, actually I'll put it for you guys to see here, my banner, it disappears with the questions. What I put on YouTube right now, thank you, that's cute by the way. What I put on YouTube right now is the link in my profile. Among other things you'll see in there is, like I said, the link to my friend Vlad, where you can donate for the humanitarian relief of the other refugees he knows there, but also the link for donating to the Ukrainian government directly. You can donate through the National Bank of Ukraine to either relief humanitarian services, thank you for that TikTok, humanitarian services, or you can donate to the Ukrainian army. And basically the National Bank of Ukraine has set up with Google Pay. I mean, Google Pay, to sort of get back to the question that was just asked, Google Pay. They've set up a way that you can pay. And I literally contributed $100 to the Ukrainian army the other day. I went onto the website, and I made sure it was a real website too. I actually Googled the National Bank site, went to it, found the links, and they've got us page in English. God bless them. Put in $100, clicked Google Pay. It said, "Oh, is this your account?" I said, "Yep." Boom, gone. The money was sent. It took me 10 seconds. And as somebody said to me, I don't know if it was one of you guys, somebody said, "We're literally crowdfunding a war." That's crazy. It's crazy. And amazing. Anyway. So yes, that the topic gets me excited because it has been of great benefit to Ukraine. And I think the internet, this is a topic like after the war we can get together and talk about on its own. Is, the internet good or bad? Because I think the internet has done a lot of bad in the world and has created a lot of divisions. But sometimes, like with Ukraine, it's potentially helping save these people, which is pretty cool. Let me look up here. You've got a Ukrainian flag flying on your house, says Poppy a day. Good for you. I've been wanting to get one, actually. I wanted to see. I don't know if they'd let me put it on my balcony. The building can get funny, but I guess they'd be in some trouble if they got mad at me for putting a Ukrainian flag up. That wouldn't look too good. But I was wanting to put one up too. What else we got here? I did not see that. Thank you. Sorry. I appreciate the praise. I'm not going to repeat it, but I do appreciate that. You know what's funny? When we were raising, somebody said we should start a GoFundMe. The issue becomes we were going to do one for my friend Vlad, who simply needed for his family initially. Vlad basically gave away all of his money to everybody else and then needed about $2,500 to pay my shirt to pay for his own rent. They're internally displaced refugees. They left the town. They were in the town of Kharkiv, which obviously is being just bombed, horrifically bombed. He's got a wife, 3-year-old daughter. Definitely did not want them there. They didn't want to leave without him. His wife's mom and his wife's grandma. The grandma, I think, is like upper 80s and not well physically. Anyway, they all escaped. They're in another part of Ukraine now. But Vlad had taken a lot of money out of the bank to support them, gave all of his money away to his family and friends, because that's the kind of guy he is, and realized he had no money to pay the rent. Well, not the rent, but the rent you have to pay in the refugee village. In the refugee towns, they're charging people. People do not have free housing. I mean, I'm sure somebody is probably giving free housing, but in general, people are having to stay in hotels. One friend of theirs who did a video today, Yevgeny, who I put on TikTok, it's a great video, but Yevgeny is sleeping in a sauna that is housing currently 11 different people are sleeping in this sauna, and it's crazy. And again, your donations are going to help Yevgeny and those guys get some real housing. But we checked GoFundMe, and to its credit, GoFundMe is set up now like a 3 to 5 day delay that they want to investigate and make sure the money's going to who it says it's going to, and all this kind of stuff. And we couldn't wait, and it's a good idea. And I even thought, wouldn't it be neat to crowdfund things like, drones and things like that. But again, you get into the whole issue of the legality of it, maybe even tax issues. But I think the bigger issue, if you did it on GoFundMe, wouldn't be tax, but it would be the legality. Like, can we raise money for drones on GoFundMe? I'd like to. I would like to find somebody who could tell me if we can. And then, by the way, let's pretend we did that. How would TikTok feel about promoting that? I'm not sure they'd be too happy. And I don't want to upset the TikTok gods, but I'm not sure they'd be too happy about people fundraising for that off of TikTok, right? So, you gotta, with all of these social media platforms, I'm sympathetic, put it this way, I'm somewhat sympathetic to that maybe being a step too far. So anyway, we do what we can. We've been able to get money for Vlad to do the humanitarian stuff, and it's been great. I think he even said another family's video tomorrow they're going to send of another family you guys helped. Excuse me. All right, couple more minutes. Putin's bounty. Actually, I will raise this question. So Brendan Laird asked, because I saw somebody on TikTok had raised the same question, and they said, like, why don't we just take him out? And I'm assuming they meant Putin. I'm going to assume you over on TikTok. Brendan Laird just said, I'll donate to Putin's bounty. Similar question, although a bounty can be to capture somebody too for war crimes. the problem becomes, there's a famous adage about kings, but it's also about bears in Alaska. If you're going to shoot a grizzly bear, you better kill it. And if you're going to shoot the king, you better kill him. Meaning, if you decide to kill the king and you miss, the king's going to kill you. So with somebody like Putin, who's a very strong dictator, who has nuclear weapons, whoever tries to take him out or arrest him or whatever, if they're not successful, is going to be in trouble. And what happens if it's the US that does that, or Britain that does that, or Poland that does that? That clearly is an act of war. If one of our countries goes and tries to take Putin in some way, that would be an act of war. So you'd almost would have to have something organized with working with someone. Basically, you'd almost have to be working with a coup that's being plotted by his own government. And there's portions of, our government and our intelligence that's helping, the Ministry of Defense or the FSB in Russia. But it would almost have to be something like that. And you still have the problem of, if it fails, Putin's still in power and he knows we tried to overthrow him, and then who knows what happens next. So yeah, very, very, very risky. Thank you, Stan, or D-Man Stan. Let me look for more questions on here. You know what? I'm going to do one more question, and then we've done our hour and 15 of questions, and then I take a break, guys, because it is very tiring. And then I hang around. I'll hang around for 15 more minutes, and then, as I always say, go watch my vampire show. I'm watching the originals, and I've been really enjoying it. I did not realize it was this good when I first tried it years ago. And thank you, Keisha. I am glad to be back. I'm doing these every night again. Let me see. Ukraine NATO question. You think NATO raising their readiness level means something? I don't know, Brandon. That's our Tara. Oh, I see. Tara is saying, Brandon asked, a Ukraine NATO question. Do you think NATO raising their readiness level means something? I don't know. Look, I think, actually, Samantha's got a question I'll answer next too. NATO shouldn't be worried, but they should be worried. Meaning, I do not believe Putin is on the verge of a nuclear attack. I do think that, as I've said, Putin could do things that make it necessary for NATO to get involved militarily. I do think Putin could be so, I don't even want to say gutsy is not the word I'm looking for here, but so over the top that he decides, let's go after Poland. There's a strip of land that the Russians want between Lithuania and Poland. And if you look on them, I always love telling people this because it's something that people never believe me, and they look and go, oh my God, there is a plot of land called Kaliningrad, or I should say maybe the town's Kaliningrad and maybe the land is called the Oblast or something. But Kaliningrad, if you look at the map, is this square of Russia that is north of Poland and south of Lithuania. And Lithuania and Poland literally border it, and Kaliningrad is on the sea, that same sea that Gotland and Sweden are on, Kaliningrad's on. And it's crazy. It's this little bit of Russia like sticking out into Europe. Well, what the Russians have always wanted is go through Belarus, and then you run into Lithuania and Poland. This little bit of land, I think it's got 50 or 100 miles or something. They want to grab that land and connect Kaliningrad to Belarus, which is basically a puppet, connecting it to Russia. That's a big concern NATO has. And, I could see NATO raising its readiness level. And frankly, we are putting more troops overall in the NATO countries, but also, as I said, the U.S. has increased its troops by 20,000, but we're also, moving more troops to the front of NATO, to the eastern side towards the Russians, because the Russians are getting a little crazier. And the comments they're making are not good. So is there a greater chance of war with Russia than there was a month ago? Yes. I'm still not convinced it's going to happen, but there's a greater thing. So I think always good to be ready. And frankly, our readiness also tells Russia we're ready and we're taking them seriously. I got to tell you, and I will answer the questions you guys have up here. Don't worry. The Russian military is probably not very happy with Vladimir Putin right now. The kids certainly aren't. What he's done to them. These poor recruits. Not even recruits, because they're what do you call it? Basically drafted. Everyone's got to go to compulsory military service. The military leaders can't be happy because my guess is they knew the war plan wasn't good. But how do you tell Lord Vlad that the plan isn't good when he threatens to kill you as a result? So Putin made them go in there. He made them go in there with a bad plan, Putin said, oh, we've got Kyiv, the capital. In 3 days, we'll capture it, which also means we don't need many medical vehicles because there won't be many troops lost. We're going to win in 3 days. Now it's been going on for a month. Everybody's dying. They've lost their weapons. And the entire world thinks that Russia now is a paper tiger, that Russia has like a terrible military, right? Well, do you think that if I were the military, I'd be mad enough right now. Now throw in Putin keeps talking about war with NATO. You can't win a war with Ukraine. And Putin is talking about going to war with NATO? If I were like a Russian military person, I'd be going, are you out of your mind at this point? So but I think this is where Putin has to keep talking about nuclear war and stuff because he's trying to scare people. And the more he scares people, the more he can scare us. I mean, the more we can think, oh, it would be crazy to go with war with NATO, but he's crazy. He's crazy, So, we better not get involved. Anyway, Samantha asks, Olivieri, can you speak on the over 2,000 Ukrainian children taken from their parents to Russia? How did Russia move them? I don't know. I just had heard that was not even heard. That was the report. 62,000 out of Mariupol alone, and that would have involved children anyway. I don't know any more about it. I do know, for example, the Russians in one of the towns. This was reported in the last day. The Ukrainians were moving in buses to bring civilians out of the town, to evacuate them out of the town. The Russians stopped them and took their buses. Now, granted, the Russian military vehicles are apparently a disaster. The tires are horrible. They're not in good shape. They ran out of fuel. So they could be taking the buses just for that. And the Ukrainians have been blowing them up like this little town of farmers did. But it's also possible that they're using these buses to bus the civilians to Russia. But it's a really good question because if their logistics have been so bad that the Russians have not been able to get food and fuel and water and ammunition to their people at the front, then how are they taking citizens from the front and moving them away? I don't know. It's actually, it's a smart question. It's a very smart question. I guess this is part of the fog of war question because you'd have to go and actually interview enough people who are literally telling you, I'm a mother, here's my child, where is he? The Russians took him. He's clearly not with me, he's gone, but you need, the ability of journalists to do that. There were a couple more questions, and I want to make sure I didn't forget one. Let me see. I thought there was one before Samantha, if I'm not wrong. And if I am, if there isn't, then I will last go to TikTok. I'll get my last question for you guys. And then we're going to switch into, okay, I do not see another one here. Then we're going to switch. I'm going to do my last one on TikTok. All right, last question. And then we're going to switch into hangout mode where I'll hang out for about 15, 20 minutes and we will talk about stuff that is not war. Okay, actually, well, I'll just say, but Chaos Neutral, I love these names. Chaos Neutral says, having served in combat, raising the readiness is important. Yeah, I'm imagining it's also important for the military forces themselves just to be more ready, Chernobyl, we haven't heard much in several days. Both Chernobyl and Zaporizhia Chernobyl, we know, is a former nuclear plant. I guess it still is, but decommissioned because it had a meltdown back in 1986. Zaporizhia, current Ukrainian nuclear plant that the Russians took over. Now, both plants the Russians attacked and could have caused a disaster by blowing it up. They just attacked it. They cut power to Chernobyl, and I don't remember if they did the same to Zaporizhia. The power was cut for a few days. They wouldn't let the Ukrainians back in. Then the Russians claimed, we got the Belarusian engineers came and they fixed Chernobyl. 2 days later, we found out they hadn't. And finally, the Ukrainians were let in there to fix it, at least fix the power. And then I heard a day later, the power went down again. So I've not heard anything new as far as Chernobyl goes. I don't know. There hasn't been much talk about it. Again, I think the bigger concern, because you've already had Putin now, his troops blew up. I don't want to say it's an ammonia plant, but it's some kind of a factory that ammonia is involved, and there was a leak of ammonia. And the concern is that Putin is looking for more of those kind of play. In other words, his chemical warfare could be blowing up more of these plants. And I would say his nuclear warfare, I think he absolutely was trying to blow up Chernobyl and Zaporizhia. To create a nuclear disaster, he would blame it on the Nazis, right? He always claims that these are the Ukrainians. He would blame it on them. And what what was the last thing I was going to say? So I'm getting tired now, so my mind's going. He would blame it on them. I think that's it for starters. Yeah, he would want to create a disaster and blame it on them and say, oh well. And I'm sorry. So that's the concern now is Putin's chemical, biological, nuclear attack. Now it still could be him going after one of these plants. It still could be him going after a laboratory or something else that releases something toxic into the air. It's very bad. All right, guys, that was my last question. I did an hour and 24 minutes minus the bad introduction we had because YouTube wasn't letting me in. That was very strange. YouTube was literally saying that there were too many people using YouTube. I've never seen that before. But thank you. I'll hang 15 minutes, but now let's just hang and décontracter, as we say in French. we can relax, I should say that the French say relax, which is also good. And those of you who need to go, you can go. We're not going to talk. We're going to try not to talk substance, but I don't mind hanging out. And we usually just hang and talk about my dog and cooking and all sorts of other things for 15 minutes. So I don't mind doing that. Ooh, I'm tired. I'm still tired though, man, that thing. I was saying I had sort of this minor-ish surgery to open up my nose a little bit for breathing issues and everything else. And it was on Friday and I'm still tight. It really knocked me out. I'm still very tired. I mean, the congestion I expected, I wasn't expecting the fatigue. It's the kind of fatigue you have like after you've had a flu or something and you're still, COVID, I guess, but thank God I haven't had COVID that I know. But after a flu where like for a week, you're still really tired and you just want to nap all day. It's been like that. It's been very strange. Still pretty good. But so the art on my wall, that's kind of a fun piece. That is actually, here, I'm going to turn it for the TikTok folks. You can barely see it. The big art piece on my wall is the Louvre. And I took that one of the summers I was living in France. And I took, before iPhones let you do panoramas really easily and stuff, I had my nice little good camera. And I took, that's about 18 photos, like 3 rows of maybe 6 or 7 photos going across and 3 down. And I bought I have a good computer and I bought some really good software, stitched them together. And then you have to really massage the photos to make sure they all fit. And, got a discount. It still cost a couple $100 and got a 30 by 60 inch, which whatever that is for you Europeans, maybe 3 by 5 feet, whatever, hanging on the wall of the Louvre. And it's great because it's really detailed because it's so many pictures that it almost looks fake. And I've had guests come over and they think it's, somebody said to me, did you get that from IKEA? and then I was like, IKEA, I took that photo. But they went, no. It was so cool. I thought you got it from IKEA. And I said, all right. That was a good save. But yeah, no, I'm big into photography. And I've haven't blown up too many of them. That's one of the ones I blew up just because I really liked it. And I also enjoyed playing with the photo, stitching the photos together because it's a little more artsy. And I like baking too. I like sort of the creation of things, out of one thing, out of many, which is why I love to bake desserts as well. Serene Chocolate from Vancouver, BC. I will give Sasha a hug. She's not quite, she's in her bed today. I'm not bothering her today because she's the smartest damn dog. We were projected to have some rain today, not even thunder, like not even a storm, just some rain. And it's around noon or 1, I don't know what time. And I'm, watching the news, having my lunch, and I'm looking at my dog and she's shaking and I'm going, oh God. And with Sasha, shaking is either because she heard a loud noise that sounds like thunder or it's raining and my crazy dog, first she was afraid of thunder, right? Thunderstorms. Then she was afraid of lightning because she learned, a couple seconds after lightning, there's thunder. Now she's afraid of rain altogether. If she sees and I've got these wonderful big picture windows. If she sees it's raining outside at all, she panics and starts shaking. So I look, she's shaking and I'm going, it's not even raining. Well, I got up and looked and the ground was wet on the cement. That dog can smell rain. It is the freakiest thing. So anyway, I had a good hour of, I finally got drugs at the vet a while ago, some trazodone, which is funny because it's also a people sleeping pill, but, and I'm, a really small amount just for her. So now whenever it rains, I'm just like, time for the drugs. I shouldn't say drugs on. Sorry, we don't want to be talking about that topic on here because it's a forbidden word on these services. Sorry about that. But I mean, for the dog prescriptions, it helps a lot. So now she's fine, but because she's laying down in her bed and I've still got her thunder jacket on, I don't want to bother her. She had a hard day, and it's still wet out there, and I think she hasn't quite figured it. She knows, but she hasn't quite figured it out in a scary way. So I'm trying to not. Yes, I did a video. Carrie was saying I did a video on the couch with Sasha earlier because I wanted to do an update for you guys on something else that I thought was a big story, and she was so freaking out. She was so freaking out I couldn't do it. But yeah, there's also some kind of I got some kind of a thing that people recommended from Amazon. It's some kind of a herbal, what do you call it? When you holistic medicine kind of thing that I keep forgetting to give her, but supposedly a couple drops help. Who knows? And I've got a thunder jacket, which are those really tight jackets you wrap around. And again, I don't know if it helps. Now this is interesting actually, because Casey was saying on YouTube, and I keep thinking of this about how freaked she gets when she hears thunder, or even a car, like the trunk on a car, the boot, I think, as you Brits say, the trunk of a car slams, she freaks out. And the Casey was saying, imagine the pets in Kyiv, or frankly any of the cities there, that have to endure all of this, similar to the 4th of July here. And he's saying in rural Washington, north of Seattle, but honestly, it's the same thing in Washington, D.C. Within a week or two of the 4th of July, right, our Independence Day, everybody's doing fireworks, and it must be for 6 weeks there's fireworks. It's horrible. And the dog, she hears one and she's panicked. And I've got prescription now that the doctor recommended, and it helps, but you're still sitting here. I put the TV on as loud as I can. I put the music on. This last 4th of July Independence Day, I had to take my dog. I've got a long hallway. Like, my TV's back there. My hallway is like 20 feet long, and my front door is maybe 40 feet away from my TV, right? 40 feet, 13 meters maybe. I sat at my TV, my door, 40 feet away. I pulled a chair up, my lounge chair, sat there, got my dog on my lap with a towel and just the TV controller, and watched TV from there as loud as I could so she couldn't hear the rumbling of the thunder. Because otherwise, anyway, whatever. I'll stop talking about my dog, but oh my God, I can't even imagine what it's like for people in Ukraine. The dog would be a mess, and I would be a mess. I just can't. I don't even want to think about it. It creeps me out to even think about having pets there now. What it would be like. But what else besides dogs? So I'm gonna put my glasses on again for you guys. Poppy says she bought a calming treatment off of Amazon. I'm in Washington, D.C., hidden, by the way. Well, I'm not hidden. Hidden variant asked me where I am, and I said I'm in Washington, D.C. I am not hidden in Washington, D.C. Yeah, do follow me. I keep forgetting to remind people to follow me on YouTube and TikTok, please. Sasha is a Yorkie Bichon, so similar to a Yorkie Poo. I do have it here. Good. I always say if I've got my iPad handy, because my phone, my computer is for YouTube, my phone is being used for TikTok, but I've got my iPad so that I can bring up a photo of Sasha, or even a video. I may have done a video of her the other day for you guys. I not did one, but hold on. I had grabbed like my favorites here. Library. All photos. Oh, come on, guys. They're making this very hard. All right. Oh, here we go. I call it Best of Sasha. That's the video of her. Oh, okay. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. This was her with one of the toys she adores. So, oh God, this cracks me up. So, all right, I'm gonna turn this. Is that what I think it is? Yes. One of her favorite toys. See, look at that. She gets it and goes away. Very excited. Can you squeak it? It squeaks. She's trying. Can you squeak it? She's trying to squeak it. Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, I want to turn it off because she's going to wake up and think I have a toy for her. That's Sasha. So yes, little feisty terrier. Well, Yorkshire Terrier and Bichon. So the Bichon loves everybody. She loves people. She loves kids especially, which is nice. So when we go for walks, I was saying somebody wanted me to do a video of my foreign languages and how I get to speak Spanish all the time because we've got a lot of Latinos in the neighborhood, and the parents are often newly immigrated, or frankly, parents in general. I mean, my grandmother never really learned English after 70 years in America. She learned it, but she didn't really learn it. But I'll use Spanish with the parents sometimes, or with the youngest kids, but then their older siblings speak English. So with Sasha, we get to kind of go back and forth because she loves kids. So it's nice because I get to meet all the kids in the neighborhood and they love the dog. And anyway, it's very cute. But she's also a terrier, which means she's a terror. She's, they know what they want, Oh yeah, that toy Sasha would destroy. She did destroy that toy. The Originals. So The Originals is the TV show I'm watching. It's from several years ago. Part of the Vampire Diary family of shows. I got really bored with Vampire Diaries. I've tried it twice now. I got bored. It just went too slowly for me. I just by like the second or third year, I was like, oh my God, do something. But The Originals, it's an offshoot show from it. I've been really enjoying it. I'm in the third season, episode 2, 3, or 4-ish. I happened to watch that other show that, what's the name of it? Hope, that is the baby Hope in the original is now grown up and going to that school for, witches, werewolves, and vampires. It's a little goofy, but it's kind of a fun show. I like it. I discovered I think, Netflix is finally recommending me stuff correctly. It knows I like this kind of stuff. So I watched that show and it recommended The Originals. And I said, all right, I'll try it. And the first episode I was bored and then I got hooked. And I really like the characters. It's almost, I'm going to call The Originals Seinfeld with vampires. Because you really aren't sure if you like anybody on the show. Everyone's a little bit evil. But you kind of start liking everybody at the same time. Even though they kill a lot of people and it's a very evil show. So, not an evil show. It's a good show, but it's a vampire, werewolves, and witches, and blah, blah, blah. But very well done. I would say very mature show, so to speak. It's not goofy. iZombie. No, I'm going to write that down. I don't know iZombie. That's interesting. iZombie. I don't mind zombie shows. Actually, one of my favorite movies is Shaun of the Dead, which, if you guys don't know, Shaun as in Sean, Shaun of the Dead, about this guy in like small town England, and the zombies take over. And he's like a guy who, I don't think he works at the pub. I think he just hangs out at the pub with his like dumb friends and his girlfriend who's had enough of him, or maybe she's a wife, I don't know, fiance. It's scary and it's funny as hell because it's a comedy, but it's really scary because it's a zombie comedy. Fabulous show. Absolutely fabulous show. All right, guys, one or two more things and then let's go because I am going to sit down. I'm just, like I said, still feeling a bit out of it, but I like doing these. I enjoy doing with you. It was killing me not doing these for like those 3 days. Well, forget 3 days. Not doing it for a week because we had our TikTok glitch. And the TikTok glitch, by the way, I still can't schedule my lives. And nobody can tell me why. I can't schedule them. So I keep having to put up like videos saying, I'm going live soon. Which is why you saw me do one like right before we started. What do? It is what it is. But anyway, at least we can do these again. But yeah, not doing it for a week was killing me. And then I just got the functionality back and then had the nose surgery and was just really in no condition to do them this weekend. And finally Monday, I was like, I'm going to do it. So I'm on my acetaminophen today and feeling good enough, although I still definitely, like I said, we'll stop in a minute. In any case, Shaun of the Dead. I loved Shaun of the Dead. I mean, it is very well written. Like I said, based in like cute little small town UK with the pub and all of this, and except it's zombies, and I think it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Yeah, actually, I'm glad. Again, thanks for the TikTok folks, and by the way, thank you for the never-ending hearts on TikTok because I do see those. I do see the gifts you guys give, even if I'm not able to sort of weigh in on each one. That's why I was telling the YouTube folks, I've got my phone right here, so literally, I look at the TikTok comments, and it goes boom. And the comments for YouTube are right below the TikTok comments, so I get to see both of you. Pinned video of his background. Not sure where, but okay. Any case, guys, but yeah, so thank you. Thank you for coming up with, for being on both of these. YouTube as well. You guys have been very nice, and I appreciate the donations too, the gifts. As I said, some people find the little TikTok gifts goofy. I think they're kind of funny. I love my sorting hat, I will admit. And every time you do that, and not just for me, but for any creator, every time you do the cute little TikTok hat or glasses, every time you do a super question or a super sticker, a good portion of that money is a donation that's actually going to the creator, and you're helping folks out. Some people are doing it as a hobby, and I still think if they're doing like long things for you, help them out. It takes time. But especially if you've got folks that are, I'm just saying this for myself, but if you've got folks who clearly are putting a lot of time into it, help them out if you can. It's a nice thing you can do. And you guys have been doing it, by the way, so thank you. I mean, I'm not saying you haven't been. It's been nice to see. So I appreciate that too. But it's also nice just that people are turning out. And I get a kick, frankly, that even this, we still get 800 people on TikTok just hanging out, and still 150 on, actually, that's almost small for us on YouTube. Usually when we're in this part of the show where we're all just hanging, yeah, thanks for the hat. When we're in this part of the show where we're all just hanging, we usually have around 300 people on YouTube, I'd say. We lost a lot of YouTubers today. Ruh-roh. But that's okay. All right, guys. I'm going to go, like I said. This is always hard for me to sign off because I literally feel like we're saying goodbye at a party because you're all still here chatting, so I feel bad. But thank you so much. As always, tomorrow's Thursday. I've decided so far just to kind of stick with 7 o'clock to keep it easy, 7 p.m. Eastern. I know that's a little late for the Europeans, but then I do 1 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday and Sunday. So 1 p.m. Eastern time, U.S. Saturday and Sunday. So keep that in mind because that the Europeans can definitely do. Let's see. Maybe next week I'll do 6 o'clock all week. I don't know. I don't want to go back and forth too much, but I still am testing the times to see what works for people. So we'll see what works. All right, guys. So signing off. I need to get my nightly fix of chocolate and décontract. So thanks, guys. I'm going to sign off TikTok first. Love you all. Thank you again. TikTok, goodbye. And YouTube, move TikTok out of the way. I was almost going to click. This happened last time. I almost was going to click my screen on my MacBook Pro to turn this off. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And I think I don't know, when I sign off, can you all still chat? Maybe you can. If you can, feel free to hang out. I have no idea how it works. All right.